Okay, it's episode 184. I am your humble host, D-Base. That's talent on loan from Kolob. It is November 24th, 2025. We will be ruminating on the great and spacious beehive. So thanks so much for tuning in to discuss the contemporary events in Mormonism. Remember, I am the king of the Sons of Provo, and I am the Diddly Whack Mac Mormon Daddy. We got a couple of articles and news clips to bring to you today. In this week, I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C., where the truth runs free. We will be discussing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints lowering the missionary age for sister missionaries. Also, the arrest of a high-ranking Mormon church leader's brother. Also, the Saturday evening session of General Conference has been eliminated altogether. Got a big article, big episode on tap. Let's start out right off with our number one article.
We're following breaking news on 2 News at Noon, a big announcement coming from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Just a couple hours ago, the church announced that it is lowering the age of young women to serve a mission to 18. Young women can now begin serving their missions following graduation from high school or its equivalent. Now, in recent years, young women could start serving missions at age 19. Before that, young women could serve at the age of 21. Our Annika Johns joins us live now from church headquarters. Annika.
Yeah, good morning here, or good afternoon, I should say. Now, effective immediately, just as you heard right there, at the age of 18, young women of the church are now able to go and serve a mission once they get right out of high school. Again, previously, the current age was 19, but that, again, has been changed. Now, in a statement announcing this new development, the first presidency of the church also reiterated how missions are still a part of a young man's responsibility in his priesthood, but missions still remain optional for young women. Now, just after this change was officially announced, I did sit down with a handful of the church leaders to go over this change, and they say that the excitement has already been felt around the world and that they're very excited to see what these young women do with this change.
I would tell every young woman who hears about this announcement and then has that moment to consider where they are and what their hopes are for the future, I would tell her, open up your scriptures and counsel with the Lord. He knows you. He knows the great work that he has in store for you. And through the Holy Ghost, inspiration and guidance will come.
I think young women today are better prepared than they've ever been before. You look at what our young people are facing today compared to what I faced as a young man when I was younger. They're remarkable. They're strong, and they can do a lot of good.
Now, this is the second change the First Presidency has announced this week, having announced the discontinuation of the Saturday evening sessions of the biannual General Conference.
Right, Annika, thank you very much for that. Now, the church also issued the following statement this morning, quote, while the Lord asks every worthy, able young man as part of his priesthood responsibility to prepare for and serve a mission, we reiterate that missionary service remains an optional opportunity for young women. The statement continues to go on, saying, we recognize that for those young women who desire to serve a full-time mission, the choice of age to begin service will not be the same for everyone.
Yes, and I was watching that clip, and it kind of reminded me of the fact that young women are told to pray about their missionary service. Of course, I am a return missionary. I served my mission in Washington, D.C. in the 1990s, right in the area that I'm at right now. In fact, this was one of the areas that I live in now. I actually lived in. But it's amusing or ironic that women are supposedly told that they are supposed to be able to pray about their missionary service, but men, on the other hand, no, they're told that they're not supposed to pray about going on an LDS mission. According to LDS leader and very influential 70, Kevin Pearson, he pushes blind obedience. I wasn't planning on showing this, but it just reminded me of this one.
Do not pray about whether or not you should go on a mission. Dumb question. When it's the commandment from a living prophet and it's your priesthood duty, that's a given.
You don't want to pray?
Now, you can pray to have the courage. You can pray to have a confirmation of that in your life. But asking Heavenly Father, who's commanded his prophet to command you to go, whether or not you should go, seems like not a very good thing to be asking God.
Don't tell me prayer doesn't work.
Not a very good thing to be asking God.
Please, God, I don't ask you for much.
Right?
Don't ask! For God's sakes, don't ask!
Right?
The price is wrong, bitch.
So let me get this straight. Why is it that young women can pray to go on a mission, but not young men? That is a real puzzle to me. Not that prayer works in any capacity, but I do find that to be very ironic that men are encouraged to follow with blind obedience, but now women, the age has been lowered. And this is, like I said, a 2-for-1. This was covered in both news articles that the General Conference session Saturday night has been eliminated. I have a lot of news articles that are going to be bringing that to you, as well as faithful and critical takes about Mormonism. Let's see here from Becky Squire here, breaking news from the church. Let's hear her thoughts about the lowering of the missionary age and the Saturday night elimination of General Conference.
News from the church. So they are restructuring the general conference schedule and discontinuing the Saturday evening session. In the past, it was priesthood session and then Relief Society session and Young Women's session. And then over time, it kind of changed to different things, landing on a general Saturday evening session. And they are discontinuing it now. So I want to know your thoughts. Are you happy about this? Are you mad about it? Are you indifferent? Let me know. This is
That's a very good question. I will answer your question. Thanks for asking it, Becky. Less Mormonism for me is always better than more Mormonism. So I'm all in favor of the elimination of the Saturday night session of General Conference. Big fan of that particular construct. The church itself released a couple of different snippets about this. I'm going to play one of those for you from the church's official account over there on Instagram, The Church News, which is a pretty good site if you want correlated Mormon news.
News today, this Friday, November 21st. Young women can now begin missionary service at age 18. The First Presidency made the announcement in a statement saying the change is effective immediately. Previously, young women could start missionary service at age 19. In the announcement, the First Presidency reiterates that missionary service remains an optional opportunity for young women, but that the Lord asks every worthy, able young man as part of his priesthood responsibility to prepare for and serve a mission. The First Presidency also extended their love to the youth of the church and commended them for their faithfulness. Learn more about the
Yeah, I'm going to skip learning more about that from the church official news sources because it is only correlated Mormonism with no juicy gossip, which is what I'm all about. And it's ironic that the First Presidency is announcing this missionary change when 2 out of the 3 members of the First Presidency didn't serve missions at all. It's once again, it's a do as I say, not as I do construct, which I find to be very disappointing. Alejandro, thanks for joining the program here. Those of you out in the live chat, thank you for joining us. He says the Mormon Corporation is in panic. Yeah, I do wonder what is the reason that they lowered the age. I can only imagine that it's because they know that the more time that is distant from you graduating high school to when you go on a mission, the less likely it is for you to remain a member of the church. I don't see anything divine about this supposed revelation. All I see is the church wanting to make sure that its members go on missions and stay active members of the church. More articles here about that here. After high school, people are already submitting their papers based on this particular change here. Let's hear about that.
Huge deal. It's a really big deal, actually.
A big deal following a big announcement by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Friday.
They're allowing girls to go on their LDS mission at 18 instead of 19 now.
For high school senior Gwen Lloyd, that means higher education may have to wait.
Before this, I'd planned to go to college at least for a year, maybe a semester. But now I think I'm considering just going right after high school.
And she's not alone. Lloyd's friend, Jillian Galland, is considering the same.
Now that I have the possibility of like going now and starting before college even starts for me, then I'm starting to consider it more because now I can actually like go and do that and commit to serving the Lord first.
I fully expect to see a surge in women missionaries.
And that's not just a guess if you consider the increase in missionaries the church saw back in 2012 when then President Thomas S. Monson lowered the missionary age for both men and women, allowing men to serve when they turned 18 and women when they turned 19.
Yeah, what we saw when Monson in 2012 reduced the missionary age is a big surge when people turned in their papers early, and then it tapered back down to a more normal level. We don't. It's an absolute fact that there are less members of the church per capita on full-time missions now than at any time ever in the history of the church. Less than 1/3 of 1% of people are on full-time missions for the church. That's the lowest level ever. So yes, you're going to see a surge of women going on a mission, but then it will taper back down to the normal level. And when we look at this, the women in this,
it's a huge deal,
are so young looking. They're 18 years old. These are just babies that are coming out of high school. I definitely wonder about the safety of these young women who are knocking on strangers' doors and are putting themselves in harm's way when they, it's very, in my opinion, can be a very unsafe construct. Now, there's been a number of memes that have been brought out this week here about this as well. LDS Church lowers age for women to get married to 12 years old. That's obviously a play on this particular announcement that is somewhat ironic. Or how about this one? Dallas H. Oaks, the joke, by the way. Dallas H. Oaks. Statistics show more women are leaving the church than men. This is a dam that is bursting. So, hey, he's going to slap some duct tape on it because mission age change for women. That seems pretty accurate. I think I have a couple more here. LDS royalty just got arrested for CSA, and we're going to talk about that later too. So you can either do which one of the following. It's kind of like a prize wheel. You could lower the mission age. You could return the priesthood ban. One of the apostles dies from old age. Buy more our LDS property. Create Book of Abraham sequels. Or temple endowment now includes trained puppies in the celestial room. I do like the green one. It seems like that the exact same time that we had the apostle's brother who was getting into a serious amount of hot water from shameful behavior, that they made an announcement. A lot of people are linking those things together. I don't know if I necessarily can 100%, but the memes are definitely pretty ironic here. The comments, I think, in this particular ex-Mormon thread that I'm a part of, I think are pretty indicative here from, this is the ex-Mormon group. It's a private group that I belong to, about 15,000 members. One of the only good ex-Mormon groups, in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of ex-Mormon Reddit, but that's a tangent here. Who is reacting to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints lowering the age requirement for women? And the comments here, I think, are pretty good here. It's all too sad. The brainwashing and indoctrination to the cult missions are the final destroyers of individuality. Now, it is debatable, in my opinion, whether the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a cult, but there is no doubt in my mind that the mission experience erases your individuality and definitely can be described as a cult. I guess if they cannot buy booze and yet they're technically adults, what could be better? And why not? Joseph Smith married a 14-year-old. They have more luck with sisters than elders. They are getting desperate. I feel bad for the missionaries because they are young and naive, and because of how they were raised, they just go with it to keep their families happy. They are younger. They're indoctrinated. It's easier to keep them in the faith their entire life. It's just common sense and smart business. And if you go back to the WikiLeaks, the Mormon leaks at the time, the Mormon WikiLeaks, now the Truth and Transparency Foundation, when Ryan McKnight released those explosive behind-the-scenes videos, I want to say I think it was back in 2013, but the videos themselves were shot, I believe, in 2008 and 2009. I believe it was Elder Remland, who's now an apostle, was briefing the senior Mormon church leader, and he made some very surprising admissions. Number one, even back then in 2009, 70% of the young men and young women in the United States are leaving Mormonism before they turn 18, and overseas it's 80%. And if anyone thinks that has not gotten worse, you got another thing coming. So 80 or 90% of people are leaving the church before they hit 18. They know that if they send them on a mission, they will be more likely to stick around. So in my opinion, that's the reason for it, and not because of some supernatural connection here. This just screams we are desperate and we need to exploit more people who don't know any better. It's disgusting and just plain sad. Maybe if we gave women the priesthood, they'd want to be missionaries. Anyway, hilarious. I think the church is dying out. The progressive world is teaching people common sense. Yes, the women will be serving many more women will be serving missions. There's no doubt about that. I'm sorry, I don't have this next one 100% queued up here. Actually, maybe I do. Sorry, maybe I'm not as smooth as I used to here. No, I think I got that one. I apologize for the I used to pride myself on how smooth my transitions were in this particular podcast here, but this is what I saw reactions here on X from Ann and Scott. This is our daughter who turns 18 in a short minute. Announcements made for 16-year-old sister missionaries, and we run to the bishop in the produce section at Walmart. They just opened the portal. They literally opened up the portal, which you can apply to. Look how young this person is. Wow. Just babies right out the door, and they're going to send them to become door-to-door Masonic underwear salesmen in order that the Mormon church can buy more real estate. That big news. That is a pretty shocking development. Now, from one of my favorite TikTokers out there, Ryan Josiah, he is going to react to women now being able to serve these missions.
Coming out of the LDS Church today, effective immediately, young women may serve missions at the same age as young men at age 18, as long as they're graduated from high school. Although it is still optional for them, as opposed to the young men being required. This has never happened before, that the age has been the same. When I served a mission, the age for young men was 19 that they could serve, and for young women, 21. And that had been the case since 1960, so no one was expecting it to change. But then in 20 2012, Tommy Monson surprised everyone by announcing in general conference to many oohs and ahs that they were lowering those ages from 19 and 21 to 18 and 19.
Beginning at age 19 instead of age 21.
And since that was such a big announcement and felt so impactful in the church, it's surprising that this one comes with no fanfare, no general conference to announce it in. It's just a quiet newsroom post. But the big question is why this change and why right now? I think it has to do with people leaving the church. Historically, men have always been more likely to leave the church, not just in Mormonism, but in religion in general. But having them serve a mission at a young formative age has been the most effective way of indoctrinating them so they stay for life. You know, when they're just figuring out who they are and what life is all about, you throw them into the scary world where people mistreat them because they're being obnoxious while being told they're doing the Lord's work. But then they go to church or they talk to their family back home, and their brain makes this association: the church is the safe space and the world is the scary place. And so they're much more likely in that case to stay for life. But now, for the first time ever, women are leaving the church more than men. That has never happened before. And it scares church leaders, I'm sure, because while the church is growing a lot in third world countries through missionary work, they don't get a whole lot of money from those third world countries in tithing. The way to keep the church stable in first world countries is through their baby makers. Missionary work doesn't work in first world countries. And so they have to have those baby makers continuing to pump out future tithing payers in order to keep the church stable. And with those baby makers leaving the church, it scares the church leaders. So they have to readjust and do things differently in order to keep women from leaving the church. And just so we're clear, I say baby makers tongue in cheek because that's how the church views them, unfortunately. And I don't see that changing anytime soon with people like Oaks and Bednar in church. Big news coming out
for sure. Elder Oaks has consistently, especially at the young adult devotionals, push out the message that you need to get married young. You need to have as many children as possible for the corporation. That's been a consistent message of his. And of course, he's right. You know, a lot of these developing countries in Africa, they are a net drain to the LDS Church in tithing receipts. Some of these congregations, I've been told, only generate a few $1,000s a year to send back to Salt Lake, maybe only $3,000-$5,000 a year, and they get more of those resources back from Salt Lake. So yeah, I mean, there's a reason that the church is doing all of this, and it is not, in my opinion, have anything to do whatsoever with the supernatural. Now, the Latter-day Struggles podcast over there, Valerie Hamaker, she's going to talk about this particular eligibility age as well. You know, she was just excommunicated from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints not a long time ago. Hey, Rio, nice to see you here from Minnesota. Great to see you. Let's see what Valerie's got going on. How is she going to react to the particular announcement? Let's check it out.
Just pause for a moment and talk about the news that just hit Mormon Newsroom earlier today. Y'all flooded me with your, wanting me to know your thoughts, your questions. And so here I am, just for 2-3 minutes, but I just have been on the phone with Julie Hanks, and we are going to do a live discussing the brand new news about 18-year-old girls being eligible to serve missions right after high school. And there's just so much to say. So I'm going to just drop a few thoughts here, free associating. Haven't given this a ton of thought because it just happened, but stay tuned on Monday. And there will be more information on that here on this platform, and also over on the Dr. Julie Hanks platform, website, Instagram, all those things. So anyways, my just 2 cents on this as I think about this right now is, number one, I'm always grateful when reform happens and when something changes, right? So that is good. Let's begin there. Part number 2, I will say, is ever since I can remember, even going back to my very traditionally believing days, I've always had this sense of weirdness around, like, why are the ages different? What I'm thinking now about is how it seems to me that the ages are a reflection, or the age differences, as arbitrary as they may have always been, the age differences are a reflection of a patriarchal structure wanting to delineate the difference between those with priesthood and those without.
That's a very good point. If I could just jump in, I don't disagree with what she's saying. I think that the age differences is because Mormon women are valued, as Ryan Josiah said, for their baby making ability, because that's the most important thing to the corporation. Therefore, they delayed the age so that they would be able to, quote unquote, fulfill their divine roles as baking donuts and being moms. Obviously, there's always sexism that is baked in to the Mormon corporation, as Valerie is pointing out.
I also think that there is something to our Mormon, that sort of the sexual or the gender politics around 1950s stay-at-home motherhood,
Right.
and the need for women to be in the home, right? The idea that the woman, the Mormon woman, is the most valued and valuable in the home, taking care of the children, and the man is the most valued and valuable as a priesthood leader out of the home, building the church, serving in the church, and whatnot. And so there's definitely different values placed on womanhood and motherhood and manhood and priesthood, which really, manhood and womanhood kind of goes across, and motherhood and fatherhood ought to go across, but it's a little different here. And so I do think that there is something there around keeping these things slightly different to delineate, even indirectly, that there is a difference here, that the priesthood still is a thing, and that there is a power dynamic because of patriarchy and Mormonism. So we're making our way nearer to something that looks a little better, but we still haven't changed the structure itself. So much more to come on Monday, 10 Mountain.
Yeah, thank you very much, Valerie. I appreciate that. I think it was Lindsay Hansen Park who said that Mormonism is really a testament to the mediocrity of old men. I think that pretty much sums it up pretty well. The memes are really pretty rich on this this week as well here. Sister missionaries heading straight out of that seems pretty fair. That seems pretty fair. I do appreciate that. This is one of my favorite accounts, by the way. Bandito, he's one hell of a crazy Latter-day Saint, by the way. Brothers, you have one less year to save whatever amount of money it may take you to keep your daughter from serving a mission. This is the most important question, in my opinion, that came out of this entire week, out of this entire debacle here. He asked this question, which I think is the best question that you could possibly ask about this. How much would you be willing to pay your daughter in cash to not serve a mission? That's a good question, Bandito. It would be a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money. If you look at my Patreon, if you people are always mocking my Patreon with the lack of donations and people who are lack of members on this channel. But if you want to donate, I do appreciate it. I don't bring it up very much, but yes, we have a way to donate it. I don't have a lot of money, but whatever money that I would have, I would definitely be willing to pay my daughter in cash, not to serve a mission. I don't think that she would be willing to serve a mission. I think she's that ship, I believe, has sailed. But that, in my opinion, is the best question that you could possibly ask about this. I have a couple more takes here. I have about 5 more takes here on this particular situation here. And I think this is one of my favorite accounts. Hold on. Okay. Let me cue this up for you as well here. This is one of my favorite accounts over there. Laura Hudson. Y'all made me take a break from sewing to rant. I hope you're happy. This is an insane take about this missionary update here that I hope you enjoy. I bring you all of the best gossip here. And this is a faithful member of the church, by the way.
Okay, okay, some of y'all. I'm going to rant, okay? I'm going to rant about this age change thing and why I said it's a Trinity magazine. Why is it a good place to meet a spouse? Do you go to school? Do you go to university to meet a spouse? No, you go to university to get an education. Do you go to church to meet a spouse? No, you go to church to worship Jesus. Do you go on a mission to meet a spouse? No, you go on a mission to go teach people about the gospel. Is it a place where you can find people that are your same age, that have similar interests, that have things in common with you? Yes.
Yep. So we're going to let you finish this off, but it's always in the church about finding that eternal soulmate. And that's all that it's built around. So she's kind of arguing here that, hey, this is a good idea because we can get people of the same age, boys and girls, together, and they might actually get married. What a horrific mindset. You don't need to go on a mission to find someone that you might like to spend time with.
Yes. So going on a mission, you meet a bunch of people the same age as you that have something in common with you.
Yeah, so what? You don't need to go on a mission to do that.
It's perfect.
No, it's not perfect. That's a really, really bad idea. If you're trying to go on a Mormon mission to meet your soulmate or get married, that's the wrong reason to go.
Good place to meet people in general, make friends.
No, it's bad idea. Horrific counsel, Laura.
And then another thing is these days, a lot of people are just being called on missions to their home country. Like here in Alberta, like everyone's going to Toronto or Vancouver. And then they all come home and they're all friends with each other.
Was another bad reason to serve an LDS mission. You shouldn't be out there trying to meet someone to find someone special. You want to find someone special? Do it at home.
And then they pair off and get married. So I'm not like saying go on a mission, meet a spouse. I'm saying go on a mission, meet people that also love the gospel, and then come home and be friends with them, and then maybe you'll marry them. Okay.
Or how about instead of doing any of that, you just live a life that you decide that you want to live. You don't have to marry someone. You don't have to sell door-to-door Masonic underwear. You don't have to tell people that if they don't pay tithing, that they will be burned by the Mormon Jesus when he comes again to rule and reign from, wait for it, Jackson County, Missouri. You don't have to do any of that. How about that, Laura?
Okay. You
No.
can focus on a mission and also meet your spouse on the mission. Okay.
No.
Do some people do it differently and do it in a way that's not good? Yes. But does that mean what? That's what I'm saying? No. No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, it's not okay. It's not good. That's a horrible take, which is why I brought it to you today. Shame on you. That's a ridiculous sentiment. Okay, that is a bad rant there, but that's the typical crap that you get over there on X. I spend a lot of time on X these days here. A couple more takes. I got about 3 more on this missionary change here, bringing about 30 minutes of content on that. So excited about this. As my role as bishop of a BYU freshman ward, I've already had several 18-year-old women reach out this morning to get their mission applications started. You will see, as we saw Patrick Mason in that particular video article, news article, he said that he expects to see a surge, and you will definitely see a surge in the short term of people turning in papers, because people who are planning to serve a mission anyway will many of them will turn it in anyway. And then about a year and a half later, there will be a dirge of missions, people going on missions. I think I got 2 more takes here from, did I already get this one to you, Becky Squire? I believe I already got, right? Yeah, I already gave that one to you. Sorry about that. That's a double. I have one final take here. I believe this is from Nemo, the ex-Mormon. He's going to weigh in on this one as well. This is my last take on the sister missionary deal.
The Mormon Church has just announced that the Saturday evening session of their general conference has been discontinued. Now that's...
Oh, sorry. This is all... no more Saturday evening. I got this in the wrong place. We will have to come. Sorry. Okay. So that's the second article. I apologize. I have these out of order, Bush League, but we'll transition into the Saturday evening general conference stuff.
Good news for me as someone who watches and live streams after every session of general conference. And I do that from several time zones away, which means that I am thrilled. No more staying up until 4 a.m. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because the history of the Saturday evening session is complicated. It's come and gone a number of times over the years. For example, in 2017, the men's only priesthood session, which normally occupied every single Saturday evening, went to just being the April Saturday evenings, with the October Saturday evenings being given over to the women's session of conference, which used to be separate to the main general conference itself. They went to alternating men's in April Saturday evening, women's October Saturday evening. But then in 2021, the church got rid of the Saturday evening sessions altogether and then reinstated the Saturday evening session very, very quickly as a general session. No more gendered sessions. And women's representation in conference, as small as it was even then, has never recovered from this change. And now they are supposedly scrapping the Saturday evening session entirely. But it's possible that something else will take its place. A youth session maybe, to focus on the rising generation. As always, let me know what you think in the comments.
Right, that's the transition to the Saturday evening session, and this is big news across the church. This is a double. I'm bringing you the 2 biggest articles here. It's gone. The Saturday evening session officially canceled. This is from one of my people that I interact with over there on X, Rise Zion, faithful Latter-day Saint. We got into a bit of a tussle this week on an unrelated subject, which I won't talk about, but I'm just bringing you 1 minute of him reacting to General Conference canceled. Just the opening soiree here from Rise Zion, who's kind of an apocalyptic freak, if you ask me my opinion, which I will bring to you.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rise Zion. My name is Seth, and I hope you're all having a very wonderful Wednesday. Now, today we have to talk about the major and shocking new announcement from the First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, an announcement that marks the end of an era, and perhaps more importantly, signals the direction the Lord is taking his people in the near future. On November 19th, today, the First Presidency, President Dallin H. Oaks, President Henry B. Eyring, and President D. Todd Christofferson published a notice stating that beginning April 2026, General Conference will no longer include a Saturday evening session. Their published statement explains, the First Presidency has decided that beginning in April 2026, General Conference will no longer include a Saturday evening session in an effort to emphasize the morning and afternoon sessions of General Conference. That's the official stated reason. But today, I want to explore with you not just the logistics, but the patterns behind the logistics. Because whenever the Lord changes the structure of his church, it's never random. It's always very intentional, always revelatory, and always preparatory.
I told you he was a second coming freak. It's not preparatory to anything. There's zero. This is what Rise Zion and I were actually discussing over there on Twitter, who's an end time apocalyptic signs of the times guy. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever to believe that the world is coming to an end anytime soon. And when I brought that up to him, instead of providing evidence for his apocalyptic doom mongering, instead he said, well, being a Latter-day Saint makes some people really happy, as if that somehow excuses that doom mongering. It doesn't. And as Nemo the Mormon earlier said, there has been a complicated history of that particular Saturday evening session of General Conference. And Rebecca here has got the donuts out. That's correct, by the way. President Russell M. Nelson explains why he loves priesthood session so much. Now, he was a big fan of the priesthood session, which is why as soon as he died, it went away. You know, it's amazing how the quote-unquote revelations in Mormonism almost always just correspond to whomever is at the top, and not to an imaginary sky daddy. Isn't that amazing here? That's why she's got the donut. And this is what Rusty, the late, great Rusty Nelson, said about it. He said, tonight, I'm attending with a son, daughters-in-law, and grandsons gathered in the kitchen of our home. What are they doing? Where are the mothers? Why, they're making large batches of homemade donuts. And when we return home, we will feast on those donuts. While we enjoy them, these mothers, sisters, and daughters will listen intently as each of us speaks on the things that he learned at the conference tonight. So we know that Rusty was a big fan of General Conference, of that Saturday evening session, while the women folk were literally home in the kitchen, while the men folk get to make all of the important decisions and then bring back the further light and knowledge to them that the Father promised to send but never did, because wait for it, he's not real. So yeah, now it's been canceled, and this is kind of the history here. Back in 1977, the church standardized General Conference. The Saturday evening session became the general priesthood session attended by male members 12 and up. This included the donuts prepared by women waiting at home. A separate general women's meeting for women and girls 8+ was introduced and usually held the weekend before the General Conference, but not officially counted as a session. Then in 2014 through 2017, the women's meeting was reclassified. It was designated a general women's meeting as an official session of General Conference. It alternated with the general priesthood session every 6 months, April and priesthood. Again, donuts are waiting at home in October, which was the women's session, nothing waiting at home. Then in 2018 through 2020, a unified women's and priesthood session. The church restructured again. April sessions included general priesthood session. October conferences included general women's session. Both were officially considered part of the main conference weekend once again. And then 2021, the church announced that it would eliminate the Saturday evening session entirely, begin in October of 2021. But in July 2021, after further consideration, just a month later, the decision was reversed. The session would continue, but not targeted to a specific demographic. Now very confused on who's making the donuts. Bringing us up to the modern time frame, open topic general audience Saturday evening session, it became for all members and friends. Maybe the friends can bring the donuts. Focused on messages determined by the First Presidency, not by gender or by priesthood office. And now it's 2025, folks. Let's scrap the whole thing and let's go out for donuts instead. What a convoluted mess. This is the unchangeable God of Mormonism on full display, who cannot seem to make up his mind about what he wants to do with the Saturday evening session of General Conference. What an absolute farce. Last take here on the breaking news from the church about the canceled General Conference.
Today, the church announced that there will be no more Saturday evening General Conference sessions. Today, I learned that there were Saturday evening General Conference sessions. So today, the church announced.
I think that sums it up pretty well there, folks. I think that sums things up pretty well. Okay, we've covered the two biggest articles of the week. That is number one, the lowering of the missionary age. Number two, the removal of the Saturday evening session. And at least for ex-Mormons, the third biggest article of the week was the arrest of a Mormon apostle's brother. And again, coming to you from Rebecca Biblioteca, regarding the arrest of D. Todd Christofferson's brother Wade for alleged CSA. For those that say a brother of an apostle apostle is not news when it comes to the Christofferson's family. Why is one brother continually in the news when it is positive for the LDS Church, and the other brother's news is suppressed when it would be negative for the LDS Church? One might even argue that the only reason that D. Todd Christofferson was called into the first presidency is because the PR surrounding one of his brothers seemed to show a tolerance or a friendliness on the part of the LDS Church and the LGBTQ community. So if we expand that out here, this is Tom Christofferson here. This is the brother of D. Todd Christofferson, who supposedly, I guess, it gives D. Todd Christofferson, like, I don't know, kind of like a beard for being gay friendly. Tom, he's a faithful member of the church, I guess. And I can't believe it was true. And he talks all about, how the church can be a great place for gay people. And this is where you see Loving the Savior here. It's in Wayfarer Magazine, Leading Saints, all these other podcasts. But then and he's even on Radio West. He's on BYU Scholars Archive. He's featured all over the place. Tom Christofferson is the poster boy for being a gay-friendly Mormon. And he gets covered all the time. But when the apostle's brother is dealing with a bunch of CSA allegations, it seems to get buried, and there's no coverage of that. That's very remarkable, don't you think? Now, there hasn't been that many news articles over this particular one. I can't bring you any videos because it really hasn't been covered in a substantial way. And this is what Fully Loaded Exmo said. President Christofferson's brother is arrested for CSA. LDS Church headquarters, hurry, announce the sister missionary age change. Isn't that convenient? Now, I don't know if you can definitely correlate those two things together, but certainly was some very interesting stuff here. Now, LDS Abuse over there on X really, and Floodlit also covered this quite well. D. Todd Christofferson's brother, who is currently been arrested. My understanding is that he is in custody. Some really bad stuff here. And this is what LDS Abuse said over there on X. I was excommunicated for telling the truth about Mormon leadership and will likely never be let back in the church. Todd Christofferson's brother is an alleged serial child predator and was given multiple leadership callings after he was excommunicated. Stay classy, LDS Church. And this is from his particular research here, which I believe is from Floodlit. In approximately 1991 or 2, Christofferson, speaking of D. Todd's brother, was a first counselor in the bishopric of a Crystal Lake, Illinois First Ward, according to a person who knew him. The source said that Christofferson was released from his bishopric position after a child reported attempted SA. After some level of church disciplinary action, Christofferson continued to attend church meetings but stopped taking the sacrament for a time, the source said. The source alleged that Christofferson also abused 2 other children. According to records obtained by Floodlit, church officials assigned Christofferson to work in at least 5 ward and stake leadership positions after the alleged church discipline. What an absolutely horrific paradigm. Once somebody has either been excommunicated or has admitted to doing these things, they need to be kept far away from children as possible. And yet this man was allowed all sorts of access to children. That is yet another failing from LDS Church with regards to CSA. I do think I have one more article on this that I'm going to bring to you here. It's Wade S. Christofferson, brother of Mormon apostle Todd Christofferson, arrested today on suspicion of CSA. This is from Floodlit itself here, which is the go-to source if you're interested in this sort of thing. And this was just a couple of days ago, November 20th, 2025. Wade Christofferson has been arrested and federal charges are pending. We are not aware of any allegations against Todd Christofferson, the Mormon apostle, but yes, this has been highly disturbing. And this is the thing. There's a reason that I was not able to bring you any videos of this particular article. That's because it's not covered in the press. In Utah, even if you're not part of the church's official news programs, if you run articles like this, you're going to lose viewership. People are not going to tune in. And number 2, you won't be given access to any Mormon journal authorities. So, and there's an entire system that's complicit in Utah in keeping all this stuff under wraps because it makes the church look bad. The news stations don't want to run it because then there'll be less eyeballs. People will complain and they'll lose viewership. They'll lose sponsorship. It's an entire system of silence that definitely needs to stop. It's pretty disgusting. Now, I have 2 last articles to take you out of here. We're going to bring this home in just 2 more articles. If you can hit the like and subscribe, by the way, while you're at it, I would greatly appreciate that. The secret lives of Mormon wives are still one of the biggest juggernauts out there, and I do need to cover them because they are a big elephant in the room here. This is what they're doing. The secret lives of Mormon wives. Jessie is opening up about being raw and vulnerable while talking about her marriage and the all-new season of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives on Hulu. There's a lot of teen Jessies out there.
Last season kind of ended on that cliffhanger for you because of very public scandal and controversy. Let's talk about how much of will we see of that in season 3? What happens from there?
Oh gosh.
And are you okay?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I'm fine. It was a little bit ago, so I'm picking up the pieces now, but season 3 definitely focuses on my personal life. It's really raw, vulnerable, healing, like Layla said, and I'm excited for the audience to see it and hopefully relate to my story, but it is embarrassing for sure.
It is. I mean, it must have been hard to, sort of open up like that.
Yeah, it was. But luckily, all these girls are my best friends, so opening up to them, it wasn't difficult.
Yeah.
But there just happened to be a camera there as well.
All right. Well, we can't wait. Let's see a clip.
Your family is being broken up and there's a lot of joking and laughing. Do you think that's
I am looking at it, but I'm really good at putting it back up.
I feel like I kind of have heard like little glimpses of what's happened with you and Jordan, but it's never been like specific.
It's like so hard to talk about.
All right. Well, it sounds like you do talk about it though.
Jessie, last season kind of ended on that.
If you're into that kind of thing, there's definitely more where that came from. I do have one more clip here about the secret lives of Mormon wives, which are certainly big with a huge demographic out there, probably across the entire nation, across the world. Those are the biggest news stories of the week, even though a lot of Latter-day Saints don't follow these scandalous gals very carefully. And I have to admit that I don't follow them that carefully either here. But one more thing here. Season 3 has just come out. I believe it was about a week and a half ago. This is big. A lot of eyeballs on this here. One more reaction about those scandalous gals.
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives Season 3. I just finished last night and I have so many thoughts. But I just want to share one major takeaway from watching the entire season. I want to preface by saying I have so much compassion for all of these women and these conversations. They're so difficult to have just in private with loved ones, let alone on such a public stage. So injecting all the compassion because that's how I'm viewing this entire season. But a few years ago, I have a friend, Courtney Kendrick, who I heard describe the Mormon Church as a sex cult. And I just had her voice on loop as the season was unfolding because the through line in all of these major storylines is sex. We have Jesse and Demi and Marciano, Taylor and Dakota, Michaela and Jace, the babies of it all, like boiling it all down. These are conversations about sex. And for those who aren't familiar with Mormonism or the community, generally speaking, we are a sexually stunted group of people. And we can tie that back to the sexual predatory nature of our origin story and the practices of non-consensual polygamy, some of our doctrines, history of covering up sexual abuse, lack of sex education, our surveillancing culture of reinforcing purity culture by asking men who live down the street to be bishops and stake presidents and conduct worthiness interviews, which means they're permitted to ask children explicit questions about their bodies and who and where they're touching people and masturbating. I know I've been in several of those that I still am feeling pre getting married about talking about dry humping and stuff. It really is just a surveillancing culture. And I saw that reflected really well on the show with the lie detector test and this need to hyperfixation on intentions and who knows what and scrubbing the text messages and stuff. But I can just see how this Mormon affiliated container of the show is meeting this broader mainstream media and the rest of the world as coming off a little juvenile, because I think that there's just a lot that has been stripped, a lot of autonomy and consent that has been stripped from Mormons in regards to conversations around sex. Particularly activating for me was, and I know that there was a lot of friendship rifts and stuff, and there's backstories that I'm sure I don't know all of it. But how many of these sexual conversations are just completely injected with shame? There's so much shame.
Yeah.
It was so difficult to hear Jessie talk about the after effects of what she called, an affair of feeling like she had to withhold water from herself. It's a very self-punishing behavior. Anyway, I just think there's so much internalized shame, but there's also just the outside shame from the friend group and husbands and stuff that is just really Mormon flavored. Anyway, there's just so much, and I'm just I know every season we're always interrogating, like, just how Mormon this show is, like, and I just saw a lot of us there, and it was actually really, really hard to watch. So anyway, just lots of love and lots of compassion to these really young people who are navigating this on such a public stage. It's got to be incredibly, incredibly difficult. So all my love. Let's talk secret lives.
Okay, I think, part of the problem is that I have a Y chromosome, which is one reason that this show doesn't really speak to me. I think that I'm the wrong demographic for this, and I'm not going to watch the show just for the salacious aspects of it. That doesn't really interest me. But this is very heartfelt, and like I said, I wish I could get into the show more. I'm not a big reality TV guy, and I'm not a woman, so this is probably not the show for me. But it's still pretty big news. There's no doubt about that. Now, this has been a pretty big week for BYU. BYU, just beat the University of Cincinnati and is on their way here. They're having a hell of a season. 10-1, I believe. BYU just donated 27,000 pounds of food just before the game, by the way, of the football team to the University of Cincinnati Food Bank for their students and help them unload it. That's we saw that. The church should be given kudos for that. But in the stands, we are getting, once again, this crops up here, the F the Mormons chant. It seems like pretty much everywhere BYU goes now, this particular chant comes out. And I don't hear the whole stadium. I just hear a few people who are saying it. But of course, that is inappropriate. I would like to condemn that. Obviously, is there a big difference between saying F the Mormon or F the Cougars? Would F the Cougars be acceptable, but not F the Mormons? You tell me. They seem kind of synonymous, but maybe you're right. I mean, if you replace Mormons with like the N-word or like Jews or anything like that, I assume that people would assume that that was inappropriate, right? So is this supposed to just be something that, kids will be kids? I don't know. Supposedly there's supposed to be some kind of a decorum put into place here and finding these universities for engaging in what some people believe is hate speech. There's supposed to be a fine that's coming in here. Let's hear about that.
BYU right now is honestly horrible, and the Big 12 is pissed about this, rightfully so. So yesterday we had a big game between Cincinnati and BYU. For those of you who somehow don't know this, BYU is a fully Mormon university. And during the game, the Cincinnati student section started to break out in a chant saying, "Fuck the Mormons." Probably going to get flagged for saying that from TikTok, but whatever. And honestly, that chant is nothing new. It's happened at USC, Arizona, Oregon. It's happened all over the place. It also happened at Colorado back in September, where the Big 12 fined them $50,000 for this chant that their students were saying. Now listen, I'm here for the shit talking. I love when fans go back and forth, but there's one big problem with saying "fuck the Mormons" to BYU. And as always, if you want more stories that ESPN would never touch, make sure you follow it. BYU is known for and has actually proven that they are by far the most charitable fan base in all of sports, I would even argue. 2 weeks ago, BYU and the Mormons raised $100,000 for Texas Tech's barber whose wife was in the ICU after being hit by a drunk driver. And 24 hours before BYU played Cincinnati, BYU donated 27,000 pounds of food to the University of Cincinnati's food pantry in order to help Cincinnati students fight food insecurity on campus. BYU even had a ton of volunteers in the city of Cincinnati unloading this 27,000 pounds of food. And then less than 24 hours after that, the entire crowd is screaming "fuck the Mormons" for the people who just donated 27,000 pounds of food so you guys don't starve. And again, I'm all for shit talking. Nobody should be saved from getting shit talked to them. Like, this is funny, even though they don't know grammar, but it's funny. But to go after religion and their people as a whole after they donated 30,000 pounds of food to your students is kind of low-hanging fruit. If you're going to do it, at least be funny. Talk about soaking or alcohol or soda or something like that. Come on. What's happening?
That seems like a pretty fair take, in my opinion. Now, the Cincinnati has apparently apologized to BYU for this entire debacle here. Cincinnati apologizes to BYU Cougar fans for anti-Mormon chant. And this is the big question on everybody's mind. Will University of Cincinnati face a fine after the anti-Mormon chant at the BYU game? And we've seen this in a couple of different sporting events where before the participants take the field, the athletic director or the coaches or others will tell the students in the stands. This typically always happens at BYU away games. They'll make an announcement and say, "Please be respectful. Do not start any of these chants," because the Big 12 in times past has laid down fines about this, but it has been very inconsistent in its application, because sometimes at football games in particular, it seems like at football games, the fine is levied a lot more than it is at basketball games. Now, you tell me, hey, by the way, nice to see you on the program here. Agba, HB, nice shoot. Nice to have you on board in the live chat. Do appreciate you seeing me. Let me know in the comments down below, by the way, if you think that the church or that the Big 12 should be fining the University of Cincinnati. And is this just, as this last poster said, shit talking? I mean, can you talk smack, or is this actually bigoted rhetoric? That I have not made up my mind on. Now, I do have a couple of minutes left here before we get going. I'll cover a couple of my last tweets here. Let you out of here in about an hour here. If you can follow me on X, we're on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We are on TikTok. There's a hell of a lot of content out there, Mormon news related, that I think you will really enjoy. Let's cover a couple of my last tweets here. I'm doing pretty well on my tweets, so let's talk about this. Speaking of Bandito, this is Gabrielle Blair, by the way, a famous Mormon who talks about how men should ejaculate responsibly. And this is, she's been making a lot of inroads this particular week here. And this is how a lot of Mormon men talk about Mormon women. He says, I know nothing about this woman, but based on physiognomy alone, I am certain she ought to be socked in the face. That's horrific. And I don't think that joke is too funny, but yeah, that's how they're going to talk about him. They're going to be very dismissive. How about this one? From Okpanachi Elvis Sunday here. Look at this picture. Latter-day Saint looks like an African warlord. What am I missing here? See, he says, this few days I have been going through a lot personally, coupled with the rage of thought coming to my mind that has me feeling extremely sad. Well, he's got the rage, and what is that, an AK-47? Holy cow. This is my tongue-in-cheek response to him. Please pivot to making LDS African warlord content, by the way, which is a niche that really needs to be filled. By the way, hashtag African guns for the Mormon Jesus. Let me know about that. By the way, Troy Saraya tweeted this one out here. Nephi sought personal revelation. Did he now? Nephi in the Book of Mormon treated personal revelation in the same way that the psychotic Lafferty brothers did, and both parties ended up in a violent delusion. Let me give you a humble suggestion there, Mr. Troy, Brother Saraya. Maybe don't let imaginary voices in your head dictate your life and death decisions. Hashtag psychosis. Somebody tweeted this one out here. Beard Boy number 15. Go to church, and yes, it will change your life. Hashtag LDX, hashtag LDS. There's a familiar picture of the inside of a Mormon chapel. And I agree with you. Going to the Mormon church definitely will change your life. I could not be in more agreement. And I think that the side effects could include the following: warped morality, a decreased empathy, a broken epistemology, the worship of blood-sucking Mormon lawyers and greedy businessmen, a strange urge to learn weird Masonic handshakes, 10% less income, and lifelong homophobia. Hashtag LDS. I think it definitely will change your life. Oh, I wonder if this one's going to get copyright struck. I release a lot of TikToks that don't really make it onto these full news programs here. But this is What Does the Fox Say, but it's Mormon. Let me play that one for you. This is one of my favorite reels.
Bishop of our ward keeps us all in line. No thought for himself, always serving. What is your sound? Will we ever know? Never ceases, never leave. Church every day. Your whole teaching, every method counts. Bishop's
Oh, God! No, God, please, no! 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 Yeah, that's What Does the Fox Say, but it's Mormon. Michael Scott coming in strong there at the end. Hard pass, if I don't say myself. Oh, what about this one? I released this short this week too here. Batman and Catwoman break into the LDS Ensign Peak vault, and then things get awkward. I really do like this short, by the way. This is a good one.
Guess who's hoarded billions of dollars?
Mormons?
Wait till you see what's inside. Latter-day Saint leaders lied to their members for generations,
That's fucked up.
Now the money just rots in this vault.
Didn't the feds fine the church $5 million to end the scam? And people are still paying tithing?
You bet your balls they are.
There's gotta be over $300 billion in here.
Or more. Does that turn you on?
Ensign Peak Advisors was nothing but a generational scam.
But what about us?
As long as I get my own planet and a few celestial baddies, I'm in.
Wait, you want to make me one of your billions of Mormon polygamous wives?
If you don't marry me as a celestial wife, an angel with a sword will chop off my head.
That's a solid short, by the way. They did break into that vault. I do appreciate that. Oh, I also released this one this week. I guess we're going to watch a couple of my reels here. Hope you don't mind. This is a heartfelt message, folks, to those who have left the Mormon church that I found over there on TikTok. I think this is heartwarming. If you can hit the like and subscribe, turn on the notifications, hit the thumbs up, I would appreciate that. If you feel the spirit during this particular heartfelt message to ex-Mormon members.
This is a message for anyone who left the Mormon church. Hey, awesome. You know, but you got to get a personality. That can't be the only thing about you.
What?
We get it. You left the church. Wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Hey! What?
Shut the fuck up.
What?
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, what? Bro.
We don't care.
Okay.
You know, but you got to get a personality. That can't be the only thing about you. Shut the fuck up. We don't care. We don't care.
He definitely does not care. That much I am getting the message. Shut the F up. Talk about a heartfelt message to the ex-Mormon community. Thanks for sharing, champ. I do appreciate that. Okay, a couple of other tweets here. A marvelous work, Bobby. Hey, friends. I have only done this once before, but I need your help. I'm asking you to pray for me to see a miracle. And my response back is, folks, literally, look, I'm not even joking. This really tugs at my heartstrings. Don't we all need an LDS miracle? I know that I do. The miracle would be if you hit the like button and leave a comment below. But hey, do you mean a miracle kind of like the one in the Book of Mormon in 3 Nephi chapter 9, where the Mormon Jesus executes men, women, and children, innocent babies, in a divine genocide in one of the most horrific ways possible by choking them to death through smoke and burning the flesh off of their bodies with fire? Do you mean that you need a miracle like that? I'm just making sure that we're talking about the same kind of miracle. Okay, because I got to get my miracles straight here. Let me know. Oh, this one is in the presence of God, angels, and these witnesses. I will follow back any Latter-day Saint who reposts this. Let's join together, lift one another up. Let our light shine to the world. The more we support one another, the brighter our collective light becomes. Hashtag LDS Negro. And this is the proclamation of the family. Oh, excuse me. This isn't. Oh, not the proclamation of the family, the proclamation about the Negro, about the race and the priesthood ban. But I will follow anyone who follows that back. Okay, this will be the last one here. BYU. Why does BYU expel students that leave the church? This is a short that I released this week as well. We'll end on this one here. Keep you out of here in about an hour. Shunned. BYU's forgotten policy. Why do they excommunicate ex-Mormons? That's a good question.
Private university owned by the Mormon Church. About 99% of the students are Mormons, but many non-Mormons attend as well. It may seem like everyone is welcome, but there is one group that is banned: post-Mormons. If a Mormon student formally withdraws from the church, they are essentially expelled from BYU.
Yeah.
This includes Mormons that convert to Hinduism, Islam, Catholicism, or atheism. What's the reason for this policy? There are 3 main defenses. First, tuition. Mormons pay half tuition because they contribute tithing to the church. Some argue that post-Mormons don't deserve this subsidized tuition.
Yeah.
But post-Mormons don't expect this.
Right.
They expect to be grouped with other non-members.
Exactly.
But this is still not allowed. Second, excommunication. Many assume this only applies to members that are excommunicated for inappropriate behavior, but it also applies to those that simply remove their name to pursue something else. Third, choice. It is true that everyone at BYU made a choice to be there, but that choice is often made at the age of 17. A student could serve a mission, start their undergrad at 20, and not finish until 26. During that 9-year period, it's definitely possible that their beliefs change.
Yeah.
It's also likely that students were even unaware of this policy when they applied.
Yeah.
Ultimately, there seems to be no good reason for expelling post-Mormon students, but there is one good reason to remove this policy. It directly contradicts the teachings of BYU and the church. Just listen to this clip of Ronald Erasmus, member of the Board of Trustees and apostle of the church.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has stood consistently for freedom of choice and conscience.
Except if you're an ex-Mormon at BYU.
Many years ago, the prophet Joseph Smith wrote, "We believe that all men are created equal and that all have the privilege of thinking for themselves upon all matters relative to conscience." He went on to say, "If I have been willing to die for a Mormon, I am just as ready to die in defending the rights of a Presbyterian, a Baptist, or a good man of any other denomination." So, what is the position of the church on religious freedom? I can assure you that apostles and prophets under the inspiration of heaven have given significant consideration to this issue. We believe in following the commandments of God, which are designed to secure our eternal happiness. However, God will force no man to heaven. We believe in creating a space for everyone to live their conscience without infringing on the rights and safety of others. A war in heaven was fought for agency, and it is a gross violation of that agency to force someone to betray their conscience because their views do not align with the crowd.
Good point here. Ex-Mormons are kicked out of BYU summarily. They're not welcome, and they're not really welcome back. I cover that as well. I'd like to thank those people who do support this podcast. You've made it to the end. That's really great. Scab, RMW, David, Blaine, Sophronia, our Patreon supporters. I do appreciate that. There's also a couple of member supporters over there on YouTube. I greatly appreciate those as well, which I'm not going to name, but you know who you are. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ruminated on the great and spacious beehive. We've completed the Mormon News Roundup. Remember that no unhallowed hand can stop the Mormon News Roundup from progressing.